Hello, welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. Today I'll be going through the 12-album discography of Thrash Titan's Testament. This is my favorite thrash metal band. I know there's Slayer, and if you want to consider Sepultura and Creator to be thrash, I think Creator is definitely thrash. Sepultura has some death metal moments, but Testament's my favorite thrash band of all time. They're from the Bay Area. They came up in that classic time, originally known as Legacy, and consisting of Eric Peterson and Alex Skolnick on guitars, eventually with Greg Christian on bass, Louis Clemente on drums, and they originally had Zetro, or Steve Souza of Exodus, as the vocalist before the great Chuck Billy took over. So we'll kind of get right to it. They have 12 studio albums. I enjoy all 12, so I'm excited to do this ranking. The one that comes in at 12, I like. The one that comes in at 11, 10, so on and so forth, they're all awesome. So let's just get right into it. So coming in at number 12, we're going to go with 1997's Demonic. This is a strange time for the band. They had finished their contract with Atlantic Records, so they found themselves on, I think it was Spitfire. The release I have here are re-releases on Nuclear Blast, but I think they were on Spitfire at the time. This lineup was different. It was a one-time lineup. It was pretty much just Eric Peterson and Chuck Billy at this point, with contributions from, they did have Gene Hoglan on drums, so that was a notable addition. And then they had Derek Ramirez, I believe it's Eric's cousin, from the early Legacy days on bass here. Glenn Alvarez was contributed a solo or two. It's cool. It's their most death metal sounding album. I mean, Chuck is pretty much growling throughout on this. The reason I rank it 12, it's got a good heaviness and a good guitar tone. Drums are great, so the production's pretty good. But the title Demonic Refusal and The Burning Times, the first two tracks are pretty good. But then after that, there's not much that's memorable. Everything kind of runs together. The songs are super short after that. It's still pretty good, but it's just a little thin on the songs. A lot of times when I rank these, certain albums had better production or certain albums had lesser production, but I tried to look past that and just look at how many good songs were on there. And this one, to me, has the fewest good songs. It has two, maybe three, or a couple of others that are okay. But again, if this is your weakest album, you're the best thrash band, because this album is good. So coming in at number 12, their most death metal sounding album, and the first after their major label where they weren't quite sure what to do. They had started to get personnel turnover at this point. But at number 12, I have Demonic from 1997. Okay, coming in at number 11, I think a lot of people do dig this album. I guess I do in a sense, but I'm going to go with 2016's Brotherhood of the Snake. Again, the lineup on here is their current prime lineup, where you've got, Alex Skolnick is back with Eric Peterson and Chuck Billy, but now you have Steve DiGiorgio on bass and Gene Hoglan's back on drums. So in the production on here is killer. The performances are killer. My only reason for ranking it 11th is I'm just looking, much like Demonic, I'm looking at the songs, and the only ones that are memorable to me are the first two. So the title track and The Pale King. After that, it's pretty... I don't remember any of these songs. They all just sort of run together. Blackjack, Neptune's Spear, Born in a Rut. Stuff on here is okay. There's nothing bad on here. It's just how many songs are memorable, and there aren't too many memorable ones on here. But again, great lineup. The performances are great. The production's great. I just don't really remember any of the songs when I listen to this. I just kind of... It's hard to remember anything after the first two tracks. So again, it's a good album, and again, if I'm ranking this 11th out of 12, this just speaks to how awesome Testament are as a band. So coming in at number 11, I have Brotherhood of the Snake from 2016. Okay, coming in at number 10, I used to really dig this album, and just upon further review, I have it down at 10, and that's 1989's Practice What You Preach. When I was a kid, I loved this album, but I listen to it now. One thing I noticed, this is their third album. I forget the name of the guy that did the engineering on here. So I know that Alex Perry-Alice did this one. This was his third and final one with the band. But the guy that engineered and did the guitars are not as heavy. They're kind of buried in the mix a little bit. And then I realized, you know, the title track is good, Practice What You Preach. You know, Blessed in Contempt is pretty good. Greenhouse Effect, Sins of Omission, those are good. But you got a song in here called The Ballad, which is a ballad. It's pretty good for what it is, but, you know, it's a ballad. You know, Nightmare and Confusion Fusion to End It aren't that memorable. And also, tracks 2, 3, and 4 are all okay, but not great. You got Perilous Nation, Envy Life, and Time Is Coming. I don't know. There's a lot of mid-pace stuff on here. There's not much thrashing on here, and the production kind of irritates me. And again, you've got probably 4 or 5. You've probably got 4 songs that I definitely like. You can make a case for some others, but you know, this is just one that if you talked to me years ago, I would have ranked this way up there. But right now, I'm ranking it 10th. Again, it's a good album, and it meant a lot to me back in the day. But I'm going to go with for number 10. Practice What You Preach from 1989. Okay, coming in at number 9. This is when they got back together after about 9 years between studio albums. They got the old band back together. So from 2008, I have The Formation of Damnation. So this is the album where Alex Skolnick returns for the first time since 1992. So he's back in the fold here. Greg Christian's back. I think this is his first time back in the band since 1994. So you've got 4/5 of the original Testament lineup. Paul Bostaph is on drums on this, and he kills it on here as the drummer. Testament has always had great drummers. Gene Hoglan I mentioned already a couple of times. Paul Bostaph, his only studio album with the band, although he's had several tenures with the band as a live performer, but he's great. You know, the intro into More Than Meets the Eye, The Evil Has Landed. The Formation of Damnation, the title track is probably the best one. Dangers of the Faithless. There is a song on here called Henchman Ride that totally reminds me of the Four Horsemen from Metallica. Thus the the name of the song. You know, this is a good album. I just rank it 9th because it kind of loses steam on the second half of the album. A lot of those songs are, you know, I don't remember too much about them, but this is good. This is a good return to form, very thrashy. So if you like the heavier Testament albums, this is definitely one of the heavier ones. The drumming is great on here. So if you want to hear Paul Bostaph with the band, this is the album for you. And again, it starts out super strong. Excellent album. This is their first album in 9 years, and it's a good one. So coming in at number 9, I have The Formation of Damnation. Okay, coming in at number 8, from 1999, I have The Gathering. This album has an interesting lineup. You know, another killer lineup. So this is Eric Peterson and Chuck Billy again running the show. This is the one after Demonic, which, you know, I think a lot of people consider that to be their low point. Well, they regroup here for a heavy, aggressive album. This time they have James Murphy back in the band, second tenure in the band as the lead guitar player. He's the death metal legendary player from Death and Obituary and Cancer. Had been in Testament, had his own band called Disincarnate, so he's great on here. Steve DiGiorgio is on bass here, his first appearance with Testament, so he's on bass. And they get Dave Lombardo of Slayer to do the drums. So I think we've mentioned Gene Hoglan and we've mentioned Paul Bostaph, but now they have Dave Lombardo as a drummer. So just another great drumming performance. And this, if you like your music aggressive, high energy, this is the album. DNR, Do Not Resuscitate, Down for Life. The first 2 tracks are just high octane. Eyes of Wrath is a good, you know, more mid-paced one. 3 Days in Darkness is cool. Riding the Snake is good. You know, just lots of, just it's thrashing and grooving and heavy, and Dave Lombardo he just gives it some additional fuel. So this one is pretty good. I mean, everything on here sounds good. Again, it's just about how many tracks do I know that I love, and you know, it's got, mine has a bonus track, Hammer of the Gods, which is cool. It's got, you know, 12 songs, and I think at least 6 of these are good, and the ones that I didn't mention as good are all pretty good. So this is another excellent album. I have it coming in at number 8 from 1999, The Gathering. Okay, coming in at number 7 from 1992, the last album with the original 5-piece lineup. I've got The Ritual. This is what I call their Black Album. So Metallica put out the Black Album in '91, and less than a year later, you've got Testament coming out with their version of that. So this is the only album in their collection that sounds quite like this. This is much more slowed down, more commercial sounding. A lot of people hate on it. I'm glad they did one album like this and no more. I think it's cool that you get to see Testament try this style, but I'm glad they only did it once and went back to, heavier thrash. This is Alex Skolnick at this point was kind of disillusioned by thrash, and you can hear his more melodic elements all over this. Electric Crown, that's like their Enter Sandman. I don't know what to think of it. It's kind of okay. It's kind of cheesy all at the same time. I do love the song So Many Lies, one of my favorite Testament songs. Let Go of My World is another catchy one. The song The Ritual is moody and atmospheric. I really dig that one. A song like Deadline That's Forgotten, I like it. It's catchy chorus. As the Season's Gray, Agony's a good one. Return to Serenity is like a ballady one. This was during that stretch where they were putting one ballad per album on there. Return to Serenity's on here. The thing is, I like a lot of the songs on here, so while you could say, well, the production's not great, and Louis Clemente is not even close to the drumming, he's not as close to high caliber drummer as the other drummers after he left. I do dig this album in the sense that it was the only one of its kind, and I like 6 or 7 of the songs on here quite a bit. So I'm glad they did one album. They had Tony Platt, the legendary Tony Platt, in to produce and engineer it. So this was them going for mainstream success. Also, the last album to feature Louis Clemente on drums, and the last one to feature Alex Skolnick on lead guitar for a while. But he would return eventually. So, I probably rank this higher than the average Testament fan, but at number 7, I have 1992's The Ritual. Okay, number 6, 2012, Dark Roots of Earth. Killer album cover. This has another great lineup. So this is where Alex Skolnick is back in the band with Eric and Chuck. You've got Greg Christian, the original bass player. He's on here as on bass. This is his final album with the band, and you've got Gene Hoglan back at this point as the drummer. The title track is great. There's a song on here called Throne of Thorns. It's definitely a top 10 song of theirs, period. It's the highlight of this album by far. It's probably the best song they've written since they reformed and have put out 4 albums. It's got to be one of the best things they've done. It's got a ballad on here, but it's a moodier, darker ballad called Cold Embrace, which I really like. This one's a more atmospheric. It's not quite as high-octane thrash, although you have that with, Rise Up, Native Blood, True American Hate, Man Kills Mankind. You've still got thrash on here, but you've got, A Day in the Death is more mid-paced. This album's excellent. Excellent. Coming in at number 6, but, just for the song Throne of Thorns alone in the title track, but also plenty of other good songs, great production on here. So number 6, 2012's Dark Roots of Earth. Okay, coming in at number 5, I'm going way back to 1990. I'm going with Souls of Black. Now here's why I'm ranking this one so high. I'm frustrated by the production. Michael Rosen did the production on here. I hated the way that he produced this. The guitars could have sounded so much better, but I dig so many of these songs. So again, it's all about the songs. And Face in the Sky, Falling Fast, Souls of Black, Love to Hate. The second side, I used to have this on cassette. The second side is perfect. Malpractice, One Man's Fate, The Legacy, the song, and 7 Days of May. Those are the longest of the tracks on here. They saved all the longest tracks for the second side. So when I had it on cassette, you had 6 songs on side 1, only 4 on side 2. But side 2 was great. I just like so many songs on this album, which is why it's ranked 5th. I know that they rushed, this is the most rushed album they ever did. They were going to go on tour with Judas Priest for Painkiller and Megadeth when they were on Holy Wars. And Judas Priest said, if you want to go on tour with us, you're going to need new material to promote while you're on tour with us. So Testament ran in immediately, whipped up the album in about 6 weeks, recorded it very fast, as you can tell by the recording quality. But they wrote a lot of good songs in a short period of time, and they, this is their most rushed album, but for being rushed, it has so many good songs on it. So if you can get past the annoyance of the guitar quality on this album and just look at it for what the songs are, I think this album is great. I think it's a little underrated because there's a lot more going on here than just the title track. So at number 5, I have 1990's Souls of Black. Okay, these top 4 never changed. I think when I ranked this, I knew my bottom 2 and my top 4, and the other 6 kind of moved around all the time. But I did know these top 4. So coming in at number 4, 1994's Low. This is their last one on Atlantic Records. Their first one without Alex Skolnick or Louis Clemente. But they get John Tempesta on drums. He kills it. This is a groovy album, and you have James Murphy, his first appearance with the band here. So this is a killer lineup. And the first thing you notice is, while you're sad to see the original lineup, some of the guys from the original lineup go, you can't help but think the production quality has just gone way up, and the drumming and the rhythm is just far better than anything you've heard before. So John Tempesta really provides something for him, and James Murphy helps you not miss Alex Skolnick so much. Also, times were changing in '94. You can tell Pantera had made an impact on the scene because there's a lot of just down and dirty, heavy grooving thrashing. Like Low, Legions in Hiding, Hail Mary. Trail of Tears is the ballad, but that's a great ballad on here. PC, Dog-Faced Gods is the first time you hear Chuck Billy really employ the death metal growl, so that's a classic. All I Could Bleed. There's an instrumental on here I can't even pronounce. Urutsukidoji, maybe. So this album is just full of, it has 12 tracks. The guy that produced it was some guy named Good Garth. 3 G's, Good Garth. I think he does great. I'd never heard of him before, but I think he does a great job. So what can I say? It has 12 tracks. I must dig everything, but I certainly like 8 or 9 or 10 of these. So coming in at number 4, their last one on Atlantic, their first one with a different drummer and lead guitar player, but I'm going with Low. Okay, coming in at number 3. Looks Like My Shirt. Just came out earlier this year. From 2020, you have Titans of Creation. Great album cover. This is in the running for my album of the year. Probably won't win, but it's going to be up there for album of the year. I've got every song on here. Children of the Next Level, World War III, Dream Deceiver, Night of the Witch, City of Angels, Ishtar's Gate, Symptoms, False Prophet, The Healers, Code of Hammurabi, Curse of Osiris, and finishing with Catacombs. 12 songs, their longest album, almost an hour long, and just absolutely killer. This is that current lineup of Eric and Chuck and Alex with Steve DiGiorgio and Gene Hoglan as the rhythm section. I mean, they've recruited the old rhythm section for the legendary death metal band Death. And they constantly recruit drummers from Slayer if they can't get Gene Hoglan, or they get, James Murphy of all the legendary old school death metal albums. So they're always, whoever they get, they always find excellent players to join the band. You could argue this is their best album. I love everything on here. So I don't know what else I can say other than I listen to this a ton. But coming in at number 3, their most recent one from 2020, Titans of Creation. Okay. By process of elimination, it's a 50-50 what my number 2 is. But I am going to go with their debut from '87, The Legacy, which they named after their original band name, which they were forced to change to something other than The Legacy, and they chose Testament. But This is a legendary album. Everything on here is classic. Everything is classic. Over the Wall, The Haunting, Burnt Offerings, Raging Waters, Curse of the Legions of Death, First Strike is Deadly, Do or Die, Alone in the Dark, Apocalyptic City. And another track, if they ever reissued this, they did it, and for some reason they didn't like the performance, so they scrapped it, but they did Reign of Terror, which you can find that recording as a B-side on the Trial by Fire single, but there are other versions of it out there. But this album is just full of just classics from their demo era as the band Legacy. But what a strong way to come out of the gates. I mean, they just hit the ground running. And I got this used for $5.99. I think that's a pretty good deal for this album. But I don't know what else to say. The Legacy is just a classic. Some people would probably rank this #1, and how could you argue with it? You know, I think Alex Skolnick on here is like barely out of high school. The band was young, but man, Chuck Billy came out of nowhere. He wasn't even doing thrash metal, and he steps in and sounds like he's just a natural frontman for this kind of music. So this album is just an absolute classic. So coming in at #2, their debut from '87, The Legacy. And so coming in at #1, I believe this is the first album I heard from them. And how do you top that classic first album? By putting out a second album in 1988 called The New Order, which is even darker, more melodic, more atmospheric, just heavier. It starts off with Eerie Inhabitants, one of their most underrated songs. The title track, The New Order. Trial by Fire was the first thing I ever heard from it. It's so catchy while being heavy. Into the Pit. And then it finishes, I had this on cassette, so side 1 finishes with Hypnosis. It's atmospheric and a chance for Alex Skolnick to show off his abilities. Then it begins, the second half of this begins with my all-time favorite, Disciples of the Watch. And The Preacher, just thrashing, awesome thrashing songs. There's a cover of a classic Aerosmith song from The Rocks from 1976 called Nobody's Fault, which is heavy. Then A Day of Reckoning, and then it finishes with an instrumental for Alex Skolnick to show off called Musical Death, a Dirge. So again, a perfect album. So the first 2 albums are both perfect. So they come out of the gate with 2 perfect albums. And then here more recently they've done a perfect album. So their top 3 albums to me are all perfect. And this is my #1. The New Order from 1988. Just one of the all-time great thrash albums, period. So there you have it. That is ranking the 12 Testament albums. So real quick to go over it one more time. At #12, you've got Demonic from 1997. #11, you have Brotherhood of the Snake from 2016. At #10, you have Practice What You Preach from 1989. At #9, you have The Formation of Damnation from 2008. At #8, you have The Gathering from 1999. At #7, you have The Ritual from 1992. At #6, you have Dark Roots of Earth from 2012. At #5, you have Souls of Black from 1990. At #4, you have Low from 1994. At #3, you have Titans of Creation from 2020. At #2, you have their debut, The Legacy from 1987. And at #1, you have from 1988, The New Order. So just incredible discography from my favorite thrash band. Also, just a couple of things of note. We're currently listening to First Strike Still Deadly from 2001. I didn't include this because this is re-recordings of the first 2 albums that I love so much. So you've got Chuck and Eric, and Alex Skolnick came back as a guest to provide leads for his original solos. But this time you have Steve DiGiorgio on bass, and John Tempesta, who was on the Low album, rejoins the band here for drums. So, you know, it's hard to know if I like these versions better or the originals better. I think it's a bit of both, because I think the rhythm section, the drums of John Tempesta are way better than the drums of the original 2. And the production quality is more modern, but there's a certain charm of the first 2 that you're just not going to be able to recapture completely. That said, you've got, here are the song titles. You got 5 from The Legacy, 5 from The New Order, and it finishes with Reign of Terror, which never officially made it to the first album. So you got First Strike is Deadly, Into the Pit, Trial by Fire, Disciples of the Watch, The Preacher, Burnt Offerings, Over the Wall, The New Order, The Haunting, Alone in the Dark, featuring Zetro of Exodus, but he was the original Legacy singer. So you got Zetro doing vocals for Alone in the Dark, and Zetro's also doing vocals for Reign of Terror. So this is awesome. I listened to this one a ton, and the new one a ton. But I listened to them all. And then, well, this is a live EP from '87. It came out right after their original album was released, called Live at Eindhoven. It's only 5 songs, but it does have Reign of Terror live on here as well. It's got Apocalyptic City, Do or Die, Over the Wall, I don't know, Burnt Offerings, and something else. But this was killer. They never produced this on CD. It was only on cassette, which I also have in vinyl. And I really want to get that sticker off there, but you cannot peel it off without destroying the album cover. And then lastly, and I did see, by the way, I did see Testament twice. I saw him with James Murphy, and I believe it was John Tempesta on drums, but I saw him for the Low Tour. It was 1995, but I saw him at Club 367, and they had a pit going more ruthless than any of the death metal bands I'd been seeing live at that time. So I saw them on the Low Tour. They were awesome. And then I saw them open for Slayer on their Farewell Tour. It was a crying shame they were the 4th of 5 bands. It was Napalm Death opening, then Testament, who killed it. I guess that was during the Brotherhood of the Snake era, because I saw them in 2018. And then it was Anthrax and Lamb of God, and then Slayer. But I thought Testament was the best set of the night, but that's just me. Slayer was also pretty damn good. And Anthrax was surprisingly pretty good. And then also, finally, I have this from 2005, when the band sort of officially kind of reunited. I've got Live in London. Look at these tracks. So you've got Alex Skolnick back, Greg Christian back on bass, Chuck and Eric. But you've got John Tempesta doing the drums here. But Louis Clemente, I guess he had some arthritis or some physical problems, but he does step in and play a couple of songs on here. So it's cool to see him get back there behind the kit for a couple. But, you know, you've got The Preacher. It opens with The Preacher from the New Order. Then you got The New Order. Then you got The Haunting from The Legacy. Electric Crown from The Ritual. Sins of Omission from Practice What You Preach. Souls of Black from that album. Into the Pit from the New Order. Trial by Fire from the New Order. Practice What You Preach, the song. Let Go of My World, cool track from The Ritual. The Legacy, which is actually not from The Legacy, but from Souls of Black. It's a cool, moody ballad one. Over the Wall from The Legacy. Raging Waters from The Legacy, and it finishes with their ultimate track, Disciples of the Watch from the New Order. So this is a killer video, Live in London from '05. So that pretty much covers it. At least covers what I have. They have a few other live albums and probably a few other compilations that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But that pretty much covers it. In my opinion, the ultimate thrash band. I know Slayer and Metallica were the first to take off, but as far as the overall discography, you can't beat these 12 albums by this awesome, legendary Bay Area thrash band. So there you have it. That is ranking the albums of Testament. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and that will do it here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.